Hello everyone and welcome back to Coach Craig's Sports. This is the MLB DFS Core Pick video for today, Thursday, September 28th. It's a 5-game main slate in total, so it's going to be a pretty small slate, typically one that I would play just a little bit lighter, maybe not spend quite as much money on, since there is a little less variance out there today. Not the greatest starting pitchers out there, but we'll be talking about a lot of that in this video overall. We're going to get started with a recap of yesterday's picks, see how they panned out, then go over to the weather report for today and take a look at any potential weather spots. Looks like only one game for today that could potentially be affected by weather. Then we'll get moved over to FanDuel, talk about my core 5 picks for today. And then after that, we'll get over to my cheat sheet and talk about my top teams stacked for today. Just keep in mind, there's only 5 games out there, so get creative with some of the stacks that you are playing out there today. So without further ado, we're going to get started with a recap of yesterday's picks. So at the pitcher position, we went with Garrett Cole. He was $11,100, got to 52 points. He was a really good hit yesterday. At first base, we had Garrett Cooper, who ultimately ended up hitting a home run at $2,600, got to 24.7 points, so he was a really good hit for us as kind of a pay down option. Then at shortstop, we had Xander Bogaerts at $3,200, got to 10 points. He was a hit as well. We were looking for at least double-digit points out, and he got that for us yesterday. Then in our outfield, really good overall yesterday. So we had Tyrone Taylor at $2,600. Got to 22.2 points, so he was a really good hit. Another really good paydown option on yesterday's slate. And then Marcell Ozuna at $3,300 got to 28.2 points. He had a home run as well, and he was ultimately a hit. So a really good day yesterday, 5 for 5 in terms of hits. It's been a really good week for us so far. Hopefully you guys had some of that success yesterday as well. If you had 4 other good players, you had a pretty good chance of making some nice money on yesterday's slate. But without further ado, we're just going to get right over to that weather report for today. So like I said, it's only a 5-game slate in totality, so not too much to talk about here weather-wise. The one lone weather spot for today is going to be the New York Mets and the Miami Marlins. This game's over in New York, and there's a 20% chance of rain at this point in time. We'll just keep an eye on it throughout the day. If anything does majorly change throughout the day, we'll leave it down in the comments below, as well as those starting lineups as they do come out throughout the late afternoon and early evening. But with that being said, we'll get right over to our core picks on FanDuel. So we're going to start with our pitcher for today. It's going to be Chris Bassett. He is $9,500. Has some pretty decent history versus the Yankees in the past. He had one lone start versus them this year where he did have 46 points. If you look at what he's done in the season in totality, 15 wins, a 3.74 ERA, kind of a little bit hit or miss there at times, averaging about 32 fantasy points per game at $9,500. So hopefully, it's a good start for him once again. But like I said, he does have that pretty good history versus the New York Yankees. Last 2 starts have been pretty solid for him. In terms of the guys that I consider in play at pitcher today, he is the cheapest option of those 3. Then we're going to move down to first base. We're going to go back to Josh Bell. Unfortunately, he did not end up playing the other day when we had him listed as a core pick, but we switched over to Brandon Drury, and it ultimately ended up being pretty well for us overall. When we look at Josh Bell, what he's done on the season, 247 average, 22 home runs, 69 RBIs, averaging just under 9 fantasy points per game at $2,800. Goes against David Peterson for the New York Mets today. He's 3 for 5 versus him in his career, so not the longest list of sample size there, but some pretty good sample size at that. And if we look at what Josh Bell's done lately, he's got at least 1 hit in 5 out of his last 6 games, including 3 multi-hit games during that time span. So for $2,800, looks like a pretty solid option. Looks like a guy that has some pretty decent upside today overall. And then we're going to move down to second base with Ozzie Albies, a guy that's been on a tear as of late, $3,900, averaging about 12.5 fantasy points per game. 278 average, 33 home runs, 107 RBIs, a guy that can steal base here and there at times as well. And if you look at what he's done lately, 12 out of his last 13 games, he has at least 1 hit. 9 of those games have been multi-hit games. So one of the better players over the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks or so. They're going against the Chicago Cubs today. They're probably going to face Marcus Stroman as kind of the starter throwing the first couple innings. Javier Assad probably behind him. So if in his career versus Marcus Stroman, 7 for 16, so some pretty good history there. And then his brief career versus Javier Assad, 1 for 3 with 1 home run. So either way, like the matchup quite a bit for Ozzie Albies today. Then we're going to move down to our outfielders. We got David Peralta here at $2,900. Of course, field effect got him a little bit higher in terms of price tag, but at $2,900, averaging just under 7 fantasy points per game, hitting .259 on the season, 7 home runs, 55 RBI. So, a decent little season for kind of a platoon player. And he's going against Chris Flexen today. He is 5 for 7 with 1 home run versus Chris Flexen in his career. So, some pretty decent history at that. If you look at what David Peralta's kind of done as of late, in his last 5 starts, 4 of them he's had at least 1 hit. And in his last 3 starts, he's had at least 9 points. So as kind of a paydown option. Does give us a little bit of decent upside. Coors Field out there, obviously, today helping him out just a little bit going against Chris Flexen, who does have that ERA up over 7. Should be a pretty solid day for him overall. And then last but not least, ultimately ended up on a pay-up option here, Ronald Acuna Jr. If you want to play a different pay-up player instead of him today, whether it's like Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, you can definitely do that as well. But for Ronald Acuna on the season, 336 average, 41 home runs, 104 RBIs, obviously a guy that can steal base, 17 fantasy points per game, $5,000 price tag. Obviously, it's a pretty large price tag, but on today's slate, you can definitely make it work, especially if you're going out there and playing some Brave stacks overall. With that being said, Ronald Acuna is 2 for 3 with 1 home run in his career versus Javier Said, who's expected to be like kind of the primary pitcher. Marcus Stroman be throwing before him, though. Unfortunately, Ronald Acuna 0 for 6 versus him, but not too worried about that. And if you look at what Ronald Acuna has done as of late, 11-game hitting streak, 5 of those games have been multi-hit games, so some pretty decent upside to be had there. Obviously, if you look at 2 20-point games in the most recent games, there was kind of the one-down game in there, but not too worried about Ronald Acuna. It definitely does offer a ton of upside, maybe even the most upside of any potential player on tonight's slate. But with that being said, if you ultimately go with the 5 players that I do have listed here, you'll have $10,900 remaining. Just over $2,700 per player. So like I said, with Ronald Acuna being in there, it's kind of that payoff option. Takes up a little bit more salary cap, but get a little bit creative today. Definitely can kind of mix and match the rest of the way. Or if you want to pay down a little bit from Ronald Acuna to someone else, gives you a little bit more money to spend elsewhere as well. But with that being said, we are going to move over to the YouTube community tab, talk about my top GPP teams to stack from my cheat sheet. My cheat sheet is 100% free. It's up on Facebook. It's up on Twitter. It's up on the YouTube community tab. So definitely be sure to check that out as you're building out your lineups throughout the day. If you're interested in more in-depth notes Monday through Friday, well, this is the last week of baseball, I should say, too, as well. Also be sure to check out the Patreon page. Notable hitter versus pitcher matchups, pitchers, whether or not I would consider them in play, a risky play, or a straight up avoid, and some additional top stacks on larger slates as well. But the top stacks that I do have for today, we got the Dodgers going against Chris Flexen of the Colorado Rockies. Flexen's ERA is up over 7 at this point in time. This game's at Coors Field. So the Dodgers are going to be a pretty popular stack today. Obviously, they have a pretty potent lineup. Not a long list of history there versus Chris Flexen, but guys like David Peralta definitely do stand out. Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts if you want to go that direction as well. And then we have the Atlanta Braves. A decent amount of them have hit Stroman and Javier Said pretty well, so do like going back to them today. Eddie Rosario is kind of a sneaky play. He's got a couple home runs versus Marcus Stroman in his career, so $2,700 hasn't been doing as much as of late, but could be a little bit of a sneaky play there. And then last but not least, I just threw the Toronto Blue Jays up there. I got a lot of maybe teams after the top 2 stacks, so definitely get creative with the remaining teams if you want to stack them. Definitely don't have a problem with that. The Blue Jays make some sense. Heck, even the Marlins make a little bit of sense today versus David Peterson. Some of those hitters have hit him pretty well in the past. The Rangers have done all right versus Logan Gilbert. And then the Blue Jays, going against Luke Weaver. There's not much history there, but Luke Weaver hasn't done too much in his respective career. But with that being said, that's pretty much what I do have in terms of MLB DFS core picks for today, in terms of the top stacks, the recap, and the weather report. Hopefully you all enjoyed. If you have any other additional questions related to MLB DFS whatsoever, be sure to drop them down in the comments and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Also, be sure to let me know your favorite play on tonight's slate, whether it's someone from my core 5 picks, whether it's someone from my top GPP stacks, or whether it's a completely different player you guys think I missed. Definitely interested in hearing who that is for you today. And then, as always, we'll be listing any major weather updates as well as those starting lineups as they do come out throughout the late afternoon and early evening. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps with the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Greg Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, we got MLB DFS Monday through Friday. Last week of MLB regular season, so it will be the last week of MLB DFS for myself. But we do have CFL DFS. That video will be coming out later this week. That's over on the DraftKings side. And then on Saturday morning, we'll be dropping the video for NFL DFS for week number 4. That will cover both DraftKings and FanDuel, kind of going game by game where I would play certain players. So if you're interested in any of that, definitely be sure to check that out as well. But with that being said, that's pretty much what I do have at this point in time. Also, be sure to check out Parlay Play, Prize Picks, and BetUS if you're into sports betting, prop betting. Definitely be sure to check those out. Legal in a lot of different states. There are some links and promo codes down in the description below, so definitely be sure to check that out. If you're a first-time depositor, you can get some extra benefits. Helps you out a little bit. Helps me a little bit out on the side at the end of the day as well. If If you have any questions about that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's on YouTube or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport. I'd be more than happy to help you over there as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have at this point in time. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you watching this video. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS tonight.